Okay. I'm on. Welcome, everyone. I am going to call the New Hartford Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting dated November 11th, 2025 at 7 p.m. to order. If you are able, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you all for coming. The next item on the agenda is the order of business. I have one change to the order of business as the sitting chair. I'm going to move item E, Board of Education Chair's Report, to follow Pledge of Allegiance. To follow order of business and before communication to the board and public comment. So we're going to hit that real quick here. The only thing I have under Board of Education Chair's Report is to congratulate our newest board member, John Puz, for joining us here on the board. Okay. Also, the re-election of Tom Buzzy, Penny Miller, and myself, and Eric Parati. And then I would like to also welcome our student representatives down here, and Vivian and Daisy, correct? Thank you. Thank you for joining us. All right, moving on to the next item is communication to the Board of Education. Superintendent Susan, do we have anything for tonight? What do you have?
The letter that we received.
Refresh my memory.
Sure. From Megan Albert.
Oh, yes, I'm
So
sorry.
I got to make that public.
So yes, there was, one communication to the Board of Education that we do need to make public today is we received the resignation of Megan Albert from the Board of Education. She resigned effective 2 days after the last election on November 6th. Her resignation has been delivered to the town clerk's office to make it official. So for this meeting, we are, as the chair, I am communicating that there is a vacancy on the Board of Education. That vacancy will be posted through a press release following this meeting. That will be a request for resumes for interested parties from, they do need to be the Republican Party or non-affiliated. And that will go into the newspaper tomorrow. And it will set a deadline for the resumes. Once the resumes are received and the deadline is upon us, within 7 to 21 days, the board will hold a regular or a special meeting. We'll hold interviews, and the board will elect someone to fill Megan's seat from now, or from that point until the election in November of 26. In November 26, they'll be on the ballot for the community to elect a board member to finish Megan's term, which will be to November of 27. And then again, there'll be another election at that point for that seat. Good. Any questions on that from the board? You've got a question. What do you got, Penny?
Why is it only for 1 year? Wasn't Megan out for 4?
Megan was on for 4 years, but the way the Connecticut general statute reads is that the election, the board elects a member to fill a vacancy until the next town election. So the next,
27.
we have a 26 election, right? There's no 26 election.
The next election is in 27. It's on odd years. That's correct. Municipal elections. Right?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
27.
Right. So it'd be to the next town election, so it'd be to 27. You're right. Yep. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying.
So whoever we elect will be for 2 years.
For 2 years, yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I was also of the mindset that we have elections every year. So
No.
thanks for the clarification.
It's odd years because we vote again in 2 years for governor and senators, maybe?
Yeah.
House representatives, something like that.
That's right. Yep. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment. Would anybody like to address the board? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment and move on to item D, Superintendent's Report.
All right, good evening, and I echo the sentiments of our board chair, Mr. Kleps, regarding the reelection and election of our newest members to join. I also want to share a very heartfelt thank you to our veterans, most especially Mr. Frank Rodenberg, who is a veteran here that is on our board. Thank you for your sacrifice and everything that you have done for our nation, and to your family as well for the sacrifices that they have made. So thank you so much. I have the honor of being an interim chair for a hot minute, so I will hold the gavel, and there's my sense of humor. So I will be conducting the board officer elections, and before every board member, there are 3 note cards. We'll just assign the white for board chair. So if you don't mind writing board chair on there, that would be great. The second would be the pink. That will be vice chair. And purple will be for our secretary position.
Are you opening up nomination?
In a minute.
Oh.
So white chair, pink vice chair, secretary purple. All right, under the Roberts rules, we do not need to make a second. So if someone is nominating chairperson, we don't need a second for that under Roberts rules. I know it is the practice of the board, but according to Roberts rules, we do not need a second for a nomination. So what we'll start with is open the floor for nomination for chair. We don't need a second, but we do need it then to be voted upon after that nomination is made or other nominations. We'll collect all of the votes. All of the votes must be tallied and available within 48 hours for inspection according to FOIA, and they will also be within our minutes once those are published as well. So we'll make sure that the votes that the Board of Education members are casting right now for the chair are also published publicly. So I will open up the floor. Please turn your mic on if you are willing or wanting to make a nomination for board chair of the New Hartford Public Schools.
I'd like to make a nomination for Tim Klips to be the board chair for the New Hartford Board of Education.
Thank you. Any other nominations?
I do have a question, though.
Sure,
This is now the time to ask. Do we have to sign these cards?
you do.
Because our cards are.
At the end, before I, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right. We have a nomination for Mr. Tim Kleps to be the board chair of the Board of Education. It is a 2-year term. If you would please cast your ballot and your vote now. All right, can I just quickly collect them after you've written your name on them? No, you don't have to follow them. No, they're going to be made public. Just make sure your name's on it. Should all be white coming my way. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. We have a yes, 1. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Unanimous. Congratulations, Tim. You are our board chair, reelected. As our board chair, would you like to continue or do you want me to run? Oh, such a wonderful job. All right, I'll continue my interim. All right, here we go. Next up, we have our pink card for vice chairperson of the Board of Education. The floor is open for nominations.
I'd like to nominate, I'd like to nominate Kristen Young as vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Tom Buzzy as vice chair.
Okay. Any other nominations before we close? All right, please cast your vote for either Kristen or Tom. Make sure that card is signed and please send it over. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, going through our votes. One for Kristen. Another for Kristen. 3 for Kristen. 4 for Kristen. 1 for Tom. 2 for Tom. And 5 for Kristen. Kristen, congratulations. You're our vice chairperson of the Board of Ed. To the purple card, please, for New Hartford Board of Education Secretary. I failed to mention, sorry, that's also a 2-year term for vice. Okay, and secretary is also a 2-year term. The floor is open for Secretary of the Board of Education.
I'd like to nominate Penny Miller for Secretary, Board of Education.
I'd like to nominate John Puz, secretary.
Any other nominations? All right, please cast your vote for Board Secretary. Sign it and please send it over. Thank you much. Thank you much. All right, for Board Secretary, John Puz, 1. Penny Miller, 1. Penny Miller, 2. Penny Miller, 3. John Puz, 2. John Puz, 3. And last, Penny Miller, 4. Congratulations, Penny. You're Board Secretary.
Thank you.
All right. That concludes my operations as board chair. All right, we'll get that right back to Tim ASAP. In fact, immediately. All right, up next in our superintendent's report, I would like to officially welcome on behalf of the Board of Education and our school community. We are so proud to present both Vivian and Daisy to our Board of Education. Just want to read a quick little biography or a little piece of wonderful information for both of our students. For Vivian specifically, this is Vivian's first year in New Hartford Public Schools. At school, Vivian likes math and science. She thinks it's cool that 6th graders get to switch classes. Vivian loves making abstract art at school and at home. When she has time, she likes to cook and bake. She enjoys playing soccer with her friends and riding her bike around her neighborhood. She loves to act and be dramatic and even had a lead role as Dorothy in the play The Wizard of Oz. Vivian is interested in architecture and design and has built intricate model houses. She loves having the opportunity to be on the Board of Education as a student representative because she will be able to improve her typing and presenting skills. Welcome aboard, Vivian. Daisy. Daisy enjoys ELA at school because she loves to type and write essays. She likes to gather the information and use her imagination to build on ideas. She likes going to PE and to music lessons where she plays clarinet. Daisy plays soccer in the spring and fall seasons where she plays midfield. She snowboards and is in the ski club. Daisy was born in South Africa and has traveled to many places, including England and Spain. Daisy has been a student at New Hartford Schools since preschool. 3 years ago, she started the Kindness Club at Antolini, and she is now on the Antolini Action Team. She loves to make the world a better place. Welcome to both Daisy and to Vivian. So we're so excited to have you, and we know you've worked hard in presenting some information as our student representatives. And after you shared your information, you do not have to stay for the entirety of the meeting. You can politely get up and leave. No one will be offended, but we appreciate you so much for being here and all the time you've taken to prepare, and also to Dr. Kelly Carroll for helping you prepare, and all of your teachers and staff at Antolini. Please take it away.
Tonight, we are going to give you an update of what all the grade levels have been working on. In sixth grade, we have been busy at work in all subjects. In math, we are learning about ratios and how to find unit rates that could help us in real life. We identified word problems given to us and used ratio tables to help solve problems. In science, we talked about air pressure and weather and how it affects our environment that we live in. In social studies, students are learning about an event or important person in the Civil War. They will be giving a 1 to 2 minute oral presentation in a small group for their peers to hear. We read The Lightning Thief in ELA and wrote a compare and contrast essays comparing a scene from the book to the same scene in the movie. Next, we will write narrative essays and eventually move on to making our own demigod. Additionally, we traveled to Stories Adventure Park in September and worked on our teamwork and perseverance skills. The fifth graders have been hard at work in all subjects too. In science, they learned about Earth, Sun, and moon and star patterns and create models to show that. And on top of all that, they investigated gravity and other factors that would lead planets being a safer place to live on. In ELA, they read the novel Esperanza Rising and studied the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Throughout these texts, they have practiced summarizing, examined metaphors, and have taken notes to analyze characters' responses to events. In math, fifth graders completed daily spiral review tasks to help them practice skills, learn how to find volume of rectangular prisms, and work on the standard algorithms for multiplication and division. They use a math resource binder to help them remember the concepts they might need a refresher on. The fourth graders have been learning about amazing things too. They have been working their minds on every subject. In ELA, they've been diving into the world of poetry. After reading poems by famous poets, each of us chose to study and discovered what inspired their writing. Now they're writing their own original poems and essays about what inspired them to write. In math, they've been exploring factors, multiples, and fractions, and learned how to compare fractions and figure out their sizes, along with making equivalent fractions. In science, they've been learning all about the human body and how it works. They discovered how bones and muscles work together by making their own paper robot finger. Then they also explored how their eyes use light to help us see by building a model eye with lenses. Now they're shifting gears to study the awesome adaptations that help plants and animals survive in their environments. Finally, third grade has been working on a variety of different things. In ELA, students read literary texts about children who face challenges with access to education. They read the text for gist, convey the text, determine the central message, and read and answer text-dependent questions. Students also identify the challenges faced by the characters and how they are able to overcome them. In math, third graders are building a strong understanding of multiplication. They are using pictures, words, and numbers to explain their thinking. The children are working at making sense of problems by visualizing and persevering in solving them. In science, they are learning about Native Americans. Students learn about their clothing, ways they got their food, and even the games they played. In December, third grade will take a field trip to the Museum of American Indian Studies.
Thank you. The preschoolers kicked off the year by learning about the importance of fire safety, then a unit learning about farmers, and a very fun pumpkin unit. They explored apples through dramatic play, painted with apples, enjoyed an apple tasting activity, and learned how to identify the parts and colors of an apple. They also learned about the importance of fire prevention and even discovered what a smoke detector does from their local firefighters. They have recently wrapped up their pumpkin unit where they practiced counting pumpkin seeds and expressed their creativity through many fun pumpkin crafts. They also enjoy their time with their second grade book buddies. The kindergartners just finished their toy and play unit for ELA. They learned all about toys from long ago and how they are the same and different from toys of today. As a concluding activity, they created their own toys made out of recycled boxes, ribbons, cartons, and bottles. The students also created wonderful things out of what they had at home. Then they wrapped up their unit with a visit to Kids Play where they explored, invented, created, and used their imagination. In first grade, they started the year by learning about 4 important habits: responsibility, initiative, collaboration, and perseverance. The students worked in small groups to solve real classroom needs. They made a sign that said "Books We Love," a lost and found spot, and even a special home for the Promethean remote so their teacher would stop losing it. They also just started a unit all about patterns in the night sky. They even took a field trip to Clark Farms in Granby, where they learned about pollinators, saw how apples are sorted and prepared for sale, and enjoyed picking apples, drinking fresh cider, and eating apple cider donuts. They have had a busy, joyful, and learning-filled start to first grade. Lastly, in second grade, they have been learning about schools around the world. The students are comparing and contrasting their school in New Hartford to either a tent school in Haiti, a boat school in Bangladesh, or a doorstep school in India. They will be performing a song, readers' theater, and reading their informative book to kindergartners to share and celebrate their learning from this ELA module. In math, the second graders have been learning how to add and subtract within 100 and solving story problems. They've also been building their fact fluency utilizing their new Math Center kits. This November, the second graders will take a trip to the Peabody Museum, which supports their next ELA unit, learning about paleontologists and fossils.
Thank you very, very much for taking us on a very deep dive throughout our entire district for all of the curricular things that we're working on. I am extremely proud, and I know every board member here is as well, hearing you report out on the amazing educational experiences that our students are engaging in every single day. Thank you so much for your presentation. And second, parents in the audience and at home, we should probably give them a little break. I mean, their brains and their hearts, right? They're working very hard. Thank you both so much. Okay, continuing on, we have a couple of very important announcements to make to the community and also to the Board of Education. It's just a very, very important reminder to the public, but also to each and every board member that is sitting here, that this is a volunteer position. Our Board of Education members are not paid for this. They volunteer their time, their energies, their hearts, and sacrifice time from doing other things to be a part of the New Hartford Public School community. It is a very precious endeavor of the heart, and the Board of Education is being recognized by the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education for their work. The first is they are receiving an honorable mention in the Bonnie B. Carney Award of Excellence for Educational Communications. This was done for our social media communicating with the community. So an honorable mention was given to the Connecticut, to us from the Connecticut Association of the Boards of Education. Secondly, the Board of Education is going to be receiving a K Board Recognition Award, and this is for a level 1 recognition to all of the following recipients, inclusive of Bloomfield, Canton, Cheshire, East Hampton, Madison, New Hartford, Plainville, Portland, Region 8, Region 13, and Region 15. Congratulations to all. We will be celebrating all of the boards on Friday, November 21st at the annual 25 CABE CAPS convention. And lastly, another award for the Board of Education here in New Hartford. It is the Award of Excellence for Educational Communications. This was given to the New Hartford Board of Education for their publication and distribution of the district budget book. So congratulations to the Board of Education for your efforts and your awarding and recognition of all of the hard work that the Board of Education does here in New Hartford. So I'm very excited to announce that to all of you. All right. Up next, we are going to share our performance update. So I will welcome up my team. We're going to share our academic performance. So I'll ask everyone to draw their attention to the screen behind me, and we'll also have our wellness subcommittee update shortly thereafter. So if the team wouldn't mind joining me, bring on the mic, and we'll get started. Testing. Paul, are we good? All right. Fantastic. This is our annual academic performance update that we provide to the Board of Education and also to our constituents at home that are watching live or to be recorded and viewed at a later time. I want to share that these are, again, as we saw from our survey results for our climate, exceptional and really amazing results. And it's a great testament to the work of our leadership team, our curriculum committees, the teachers in the classroom every day, the para-educators, the special education teachers. It really takes a full village of a school community to attain the results that we continue to see or maintain. And I'm very proud of that. And it's also a huge testament and a thanks to the Board of Education for your continued support, as well as our entire town. So we want to start off with presenting some data. We're going to give you some background information in terms of what the assessments are, what they are intended to do. And just keep in mind that in a small town, such as New Hartford, our results can fluctuate and vary. 2 kids, 3 kids to a cohort, that changes the percentage pretty drastically. So that's not just a New Hartford thing, that is any small town in the United States. That is something that we are cognizant of and aware of, and I wanted to just remind the board of that as well. So we're going to provide an overview of how the students are performing on both our state summative assessments and our district universal screeners. Our goal is to highlight trends, identify strengths, and explain how we use this data to inform our instruction and our daily practices. What are we doing with this information besides just presenting it? So we want to support every student's growth. That is the main mission, is enhancing their educational experience. So I will pass that along to Amy.
Thank you. So as Mr. Sousa said, we are going to talk about kind of 2 buckets of information. We're going to talk about our state assessments, which are those kind of high level assessments. We give them once a year, specifically the Smarter Balanced assessment. Important in that it gives us like that reliable measure if our students are performing toward grade level standards. It's not the most helpful information for our day-to-day work, so we're excited to also share with you our DIBELS results, focusing on one of our universal screeners, where that information really is what drives us day to day and how we work internally. So we're going to kind of take you down that path of what that looks like. And so both of these types of assessments are so important and critical for districts, both serving very different purposes, but also important. So one of the things we always kind of say as a team, we have up here the we must remembers, and we like to put this up here just to kind of ground us as a team, remembering that multiple measures are more accurate than a single measure. So of course, we're looking at sort of one piece of data today in terms of our summative and one piece of data with our universal screeners, but we know that kids perform differently day to day. So when we're thinking about how students are doing, we're not just focusing on that one measure. We're also thinking about how are they doing holistically? How are they doing in the classroom? All of those things are really important to our work. Also, just kind of that once is not enough, kind of the same thing here. We're looking for trends, we're looking for growth, not just looking for a percentage. And then also our screeners and summatives, they're here to raise questions. So for us educators, like what are the questions we're going to ask from this data? Doesn't always give us the answers, but it leads us down that path toward that continuous improvement. So we're excited to be able to share some of this work that we do with you all. Okay, so I'm going to share with you specifically one of our universal screeners, which you've seen in the past. John, this will be a little bit new, but you, having a kinder first grader now, you'll have had a little experience with that. So DIBELS is the universal screener we use to assess early literacy skills for our K through 3 students. And so this first piece of information, we like to look at beginning of year trends. So how do our students start every year? This kind of helps us to get a high level view of the kind of supports that kids might need right from the start, and what we need to tackle to get everyone off on the right foot. So some key observations is when you look at our kindergarten students, so the row of each piece of data is this current school year. The one below it is last year's. So overall, our kindergartners this year are entering with some lower level needs of support. Last year, we had 21% of our kiddos in that well below area. And this year, 11%. So when we look at this overall, we're like, okay, right as of right now, kindergartners entering this year will likely need a little less extra intentional support in the early literacy skills. Our current first grade is starting off really, really strong. So they are here in this 12%. Last year, the cohort started off even stronger, but again, it's that piece, again, it's not telling us one cohort is better than another, just giving us that information about how are we starting the year? What do we need to get things rolling? For students who are entering second grade, again, we see a very strong start for them. It's pretty similar to how our second graders last year started. And finally, third grade's probably the most consistent of the groups, just percentage-wise, again, about how they start. Again, each of these is a different group of students to keep in mind, but again, at that high-level view of how are we starting the year? Again, we also look at what is the retention of skills from over the summer, because that's also a really important piece for us to see, like at the end of the year, over the summer, what are kids hanging on to? That tells us about how impactful our instruction is on them throughout the course of the year. We dig a little deeper at the data. Again, we have some questions. So we said, okay, here's how they started. What are those pulse points throughout the year that we capture to help us know how they are growing? So if you look here at this next chart, you'll see that same beginning to beginning, but we've also included how those cohorts did throughout the year. So for our kindergarten, that group that started out in that about 51%, about half the cohort started below or well below those expectations. By the end of the year, we were in about that 15%. So they made some really, really tremendous growth throughout the year. And really from the middle of the year to the end of the year, things really started clicking for them, and the data really shows that. If you then look at their end of year to how they started this year, pretty similar. So that shows us here that all those things they learned really stuck. All right, so the first grade last year, they started off really strong. 95% of our students started the school year in that at or above benchmark, which is pretty amazing. And so they really maintained throughout the year as well. We really saw a nice increase in those kiddos who are in the blue. Those kiddos who are in the blue are performing above the benchmark expectations. So we really were able to double that number. So we were really helping even those kids who were really high to get even stronger. Again, response to the instruction and the curriculum, and really being focused on fine-tuning what they need. Did I get everything there? I think so. Again, how they're starting second grade, still really strong, which is great. Retention of skills. All right. Last year in second grade, so if we move to this next kind of band, started at 15%. They made some pretty steady growth, again, seeing some blues increase as well. And as they start this school year, they're at about, 31%, below or well below. So again, starting out pretty strong, how we consistently see third graders perform. And then finally, our third graders, we had a very high performing cohort of third graders last year. And so by the end of the year, 51% of those kiddos were above. So when you put all that together, we had, 69% of our kids were at or above the benchmark in those foundational reading skills. And you can see that growth over time for them. So this piece really tells us first, how are students performing in their early literacy skills, which we know are critical and crucial. They're the foundation for all the things that they're going to continue to do. And this is something that we really spent a lot of time on, especially in the last 3 years,
as we adjusted our instruction and our curriculum to ensure that we had the best practices in place to truly teach kids how to read. So this is data that we're really proud of, and our kids are really excited about it as well. I think I see a lot of excitement about reading and around diving into new books and sharing learning with one another. And that's what I just said. So there you go. Okay. So again, summer is also a big part. So we really see that students are retaining those skills throughout the summer. I forgot to get going. Sorry. Forgot the boxes. I made my own.
Okay, so now that we kind of had a glimpse at one of our universal screeners, Dibbles, for our reading foundational skills, we wanted to talk a little bit about what do we do with this information and this data to support students. And we have a system in place. It's called MTSS. It means multi-tiered systems of support. And it's intended to make sure that we're looking at this universal screening data that Heather just shared, and we're diving in even more deeply to individual students to support them. So one really cool analogy is to think about a dental visit. Now, we didn't come up with this analogy, but I think it's brilliant. It's out there. So we can kind of think about what is MTSS in a school setting and kind of thinking about it as a proactive approach to supporting students, similar to and how we are maintaining our oral health or our health and well-being. So our universal screener that we talked about was Dibbles. We can kind of think of that as one of those proactive things that we would go for. If we're going to the dentist, we are getting our checkups and our cleaning, and that's exactly what a universal screener is. And in addition to that, in the classroom, we're making sure all kids are in the classroom for the instruction, for the high quality instruction. So that's, making sure we're flossing and brushing our teeth twice a day, getting that high quality instruction. And then those universal screeners come into play. And then we also have, you're at the dentist and that pick thing comes out, here we go. The dentist is looking for some soft spots or some areas of need. And so that's exactly what the universal screener helps us to do. So we're looking for areas in which a student might need some extra support or some intervention. And we might not always know exactly what that is, just like a dentist might say, oh yeah, there's something maybe going on here, but maybe we need to look a little deeper and take an x-ray. And so we do that in the school setting too. We look a little deeper, we start looking at student work, we start maybe providing another assessment to dig in and find out what might be going on. And we might find that maybe there's a cavity there and they need a little intervention to get that filled. So it's kind of just a cool analogy to think about, like how we are trying to be as proactive as possible for our students to make sure that those, areas don't grow into large gaps. And so we provide that targeted support and that intervention or fill that cavity. If the issue persists, perhaps we might need some more intensive, or we need to enhance that support, similar to how we would maybe have to go for one of those dreaded root canals. So, but the point is that we're not going to jump from the universal screener, which might say that there might be an issue, and jump to that root canal, right? We're going to be systematic. We're going to be looking at this individual child and making sure that we're providing the right amount of support at the right time. So that is sort of our process for how we utilize this data, and why I think we see such great results, because we are being so proactive with what we're seeing to support our students. Any questions about MTSS?
So we're back. I'm going to just put your attention back on to this slide. We are going to move into the state assessment component. And again, these are those summative, overall, really high stakes, right? This is what the state is going to see from us. This is where in the upper grades, kids take an SAT. It's very high stakes. For us at our level, it's the Smarter Balanced Assessment. Okay, and this is public information. Unfortunately, it doesn't give us that deep dive, which is why we have those universal screeners, but does give us questions, right? Thanks, Heather. Okay. So one of those assessments is the NGSS, the Next Generation Science Standards. This is given to our 5th graders only, okay? So that gives us just this one data point, 5th grade only. it's kind of hard to do any comparing because it just gives you that 5th grade cohort year after year. They also will take it again in 8th grade. We're doing a great job with this. So as you see this section here, this is the state average. We are consistently performing above the state average in science. So we're really proud of this data.
So the next piece, is the Smarter Balanced ELA. So this piece of data shows the average scale score that our students have had over the last 4 years. And so for those of you who were with us 3 years ago, this trend line looked a little bit different. It was a little bit more volatile. It wasn't as consistent. And that was something that we recognized and knew that we had to dig a little deeper at. And so one of the things that we did in our digging was to really look at our curriculum and instruction. And so that brought about the change in our ELA curriculum. And so now what we can see over the past 4 years is that we're really starting to even out. Like those trend lines are beginning to become more consistent and stable. And we do see that slight upward tick in grade level. Now, again, we'll show you a cohort in just a moment to kind of show you how growth over time is. But this past year in ELA, the average scale score of our students was in the meets range. The goal scores are here. And then in all areas, we were above the state average. So again, we see some fruits of our labor in really the work that we've done in our ELA instruction is starting to pay off summatively. Again, using those universal screeners, the MTSS process to really meet the needs of students to ensure that we have this consistent, stable upward trend in our learning. To kind of give you a snapshot of last year's 6th grade, what did their school career look like here in New Hartford with ELA? So you'll see they started at 2437. Their scale score went to 2486. 2518 and 2545. So each year the change in their scale score did increase. So that performance from year to year was consistent. So again, another just snapshot of how that cohort of students performed over those last 4 years. I think that's all I wanted to say. Yeah, okay. All right, Kelly.
Okay, so this is the Smarter Balanced math data. Okay, so we have 2 separate charts to look at, much like the ELA. I would like to start with our trend lines. Something we've noticed, much like you just saw in ELA, we have this beautiful progression in 3rd grade. They are moving on up. Okay, that's what we're hoping to do with some of these more unstable lines. So we did notice that 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, we're still having variability cohort to cohort. Okay, and we're going to look deeper into that in a different slide. But I think that these trend lines highlight nicely why it's important to consider cohort data and try not to compare it. We're comparing completely different sets of kids. We want to look at groups of kids and how they move forward. So, for example, if we take a look at the 4th graders here, okay, in 2022 and 23, they were outperformed by their previous 4th grade. This is not the same group of kids. So when we look, this group of 4th graders, when they went to 5th grade, they were much higher than the following year. And when they went to 6th grade, they were much higher. This isn't telling us that our kids are going down. I'm going to explain some more of that in the other slide. But it's important for us to use this type of data to look at those cohorts and think about what did we do with them to grow, what worked, and maybe what's not working, and it helps us improve with our skills for the next group. Another component of this data that we want to look at is that we are consistently where the state is or above in math, okay? It also shows us some additional data that's happening statewide that we're falling into. So we have our third graders. They outperformed the third graders in the state. Okay. Our fourth graders are falling into the same position as the fourth graders, not only in the state, but also nationally. We're recognizing that nationally, that the fourth graders are they're staying in kind of a lower performing math group. This is actually an international problem. And at the state level, they've actually been talking about how big the fractions are in fourth grade. So we're really starting to take a deep dive into some of our math skills and try to pick apart what's going on and how can we make that better. Fifth grade, outperforming their state peers. In sixth grade, although they didn't make goal, they are still outperforming their state peers. So we take a look at trend data in that fashion as well. So what do we do with this? Okay, we're noticing we've got some great things happening in third grade. We have great things happening in the other grade levels, which I will show you in a minute. But what do we do as a team? Well, we're starting to calibrate not only within our district, but we're actually taking a step and moving this to work with our regional partners, which is going to be really great for us, very powerful. Looking at student work, looking at their trend lines, and how can we all grow together. So this, we're going to take a look. These are last year's sixth graders. Here they are when they were in fifth grade. Here they are when they were in fourth grade. And here they are when they're in third grade. And look at that amazing change. It's all positive, right? So although our sixth graders were not meeting goal, look at the amount of growth that they made each year. That tells us that the interventions we did with them were working. It tells us that they were learning and they were growing. Now, I know you're sick of hearing this, but these kiddos, when they were in first grade, we closed their schools. So that was their foundational time to start learning all those math concepts. So no wonder they started a little bit lower. They had a tougher time. So we're actually very proud to see this group grow that much because they took the brunt of COVID but they ran with their successes. So we're very proud of that data.
Thank you. All right. So as a leadership team, what we look at is we have this information, what we're going to do with it. They started to share with you as well. But we now, at this point, start to plan in advance for next year. Next year's professional development, next year's needs of our staff to continue to get better at the work that we're doing, but also improve upon it. And a great effort goes into the maintenance component of it as well, because that's not to be taken lightly either. So some successes here. We have to absolutely celebrate ELA. It's been 3 years in the making, and we're very, very happy to see the results that we have here. Our focus will shift to mathematics, and we're going to be in that phase one, as it states there, to gather more information relative to what our needs are and to review our professional learning for next school year. So that work begins now. It is slow, but it is methodical in the way that we do that. Also was just mentioned the Unified Educational Curriculum Committee, which is all of Region 7, and even Heartland has jumped aboard. We're going to continue our unified focus on math. We've already had shared grade level meetings that have been facilitated by wonderful people like Heather Mathis across our region. So we're getting on board with that and looking at practices across all of the region, as was stated. And that's another huge point of pride that we're actually seeing that enacted. It was something that was here prior to COVID, was left dormant, and has been resurrected. So we're very proud of that as well. And instructional rounds was the last piece. So we're going to be visiting each other's classrooms to learn practices from one another, to ask questions of, hey, I noticed you're having success with this, to share resources and materials, but again, across the region, which is very, very powerful. And then making sure that our students are prepared in a fashion that's more aligned before they go off to Region 7, for example. Those are all of our next steps. So with that, we will conclude. But again, we're also going to be updating the board at our January meeting relative to our district engagement plan, taking some of these pieces of information in place to make sure that our goals continue to be in alignment with the work that we want to do and with the trends and the information that we see from our data. Again, very special thanks to all of our teachers, our administrative staff, our paras, everyone that's involved in making sure that our students are getting what they need, that we are looking at a very finite moment in time with our students, using as many pieces of data that we can, as an MTSS team. Those take place at least, yeah, because we go through and we look, did that intervention work or not? And then we're moving to the next step. So our teams are meeting, school-based teams are meeting to discuss student data every 6 to 8 weeks to determine, is this working? Fantastic, we're going to continue. It's not working, we need to tweak it. And this is not just for academics. MTSS is also for behavioral. So it is a very important team. It's an important cog that takes place at things to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our 429 students. Okay. All right. That concludes the academic component of our quick update. Questions? I see.
Yeah, I got a quick
Frank,
question.
go ahead.
Now, the Dibbles, is that a 1 through 3?
K to 3
K
assessment.
to 3.
Yep.
And then the other one
proud
is
of that.
3 to 8.
Yes. For which one?
So,
The
Smarter
Smarter
Balance.
Balance, yeah. Yeah.
so the third graders are the only ones that get double tested?
Ultimately, yes, they have one extra. The Dibbles assessment is given to them 3 times. Oh, sorry. The Dibbles assessment is given to them 3 times a year. It takes between 1 and 5 minutes. So the Smarter Balance assessment is going to take them much longer. The Dibbles assessment is like a quick check. They're 1-minute fluency checks and foundational reading skills.
Because I don't know if it means anything, but I noticed on the Dibbles, in the third grade, there were quite a few that were under or below goal, right? In the third grade.
Yep.
Compared to the other grades.
Yes.
But on the Smarter Balanced, they did well,
Mhm.
the third graders.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's it doesn't sound like a long test. I was wondering if it's over testing or confusion by taking 2 different tests for the third graders.
It could, for Dibbles, I feel like it's quick enough. It's just that quick pulse check. So I think that just helps our daily instruction and what kiddos need. The other thing I would consider is in the Dibbles data for last year's third grade, the percentage of the meets and exceeds was higher than we've seen. So that group of below and well below was not as large as what we've seen in other years. So I think that since our shift in instruction for teaching reading, I'm hoping to see that trend continue. Like those K1-2 students really are strong. So that third grade group of kiddos didn't get 3 full years of our new curriculum and practices. So that'll be that's a great question, Frank, for us to ask ourselves too, as we look at this year's third grade data to see, like, do we see that trending in a different direction now? Yeah.
Thank you. Tom?
On the slides where you showed the numbers, there was one set of slides where the average score was 500 and something, and the state was 498, whatever. And then the other slide, it was 2,500. And what's the total scales on those? What's the 500 scales out of 1 to 1,000? And the other one, is it a 5,000? What's the range that we're talking about?
So those are posted on the state website. I could certainly provide them to the board. I don't know them all off the top of my head because they vary per grade level. So I don't know specifically, unless we have some of them listed on the sheet, right? So they're listed on the left-hand side. Hold on a second. I'll just scroll back.
I know. So I just didn't want, I wanted to see what
I gotta find.
Right there. Just for instance,
Gotcha.
2466.
Yes.
What does that represent? Is that 2466 out of 5,000?
Oh, I got you. Sure, sure. So there's a range. The goal would be the 2432. So it's probably, just going to guess off the top of my head, it's maybe 30 points below that and then probably 30 points higher than that for that band, for that goal. That's that range for that.
What's a perfect score? I'll ask that question.
Has their own scale range that I could, again, share. I don't have all those memorized. Yeah. I will make a note to share. I promise. Yeah.
It's just a number, but
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
There's 4 levels. So there's 4 different levels. So the goal is level 3 out of 4. So that's telling us that, each has a different range, but there's does not meet, approaching, meets, and above. So each range is a little bit different, but the green represents that those are scoring in that meets level. So that third category, which is the goal that we want for all students. So they're meeting grade level expectations. Meeting, approaching. So I think if you frame it like that, it gives you, that explains it a little bit better.
Your contribution? Yeah. Yep.
So we're like, we put in the goal, but no, we need more. So looking for the
Yep.
range is helpful.
It's important, yeah. And also, we were trying to be cognizant of overwhelming as well, but that's a great piece of information that we should share. Point well taken. All right, if there are no other questions, Eric and Mike, do you guys want to give an update on the Wellness Committee? You want to draw straws?
Absolutely. No, I'll do
You have the
that.
mic on?
We met October 15th, and the Wellness Subcommittee meeting is basically just to take a look at how our district is doing in terms of students' well-being, whether that be physical, mental, and a lot of it is looking at how they're doing in terms of supporting healthy eating, physical activity. So by most accounts, all accounts, we're doing very well. Our district, our schools are doing very well in terms of students' health and well-being. One other thing it does cover too is staff and employee health and well-being as well. So that's one of the things I think we talked about, maybe adding some more options for staff members, promoting community wellness for them. Certain things like walking club for staff and students. One other thing that came up was staff parties, student parties and school parties, whether or not, things should change to improve their overall health or well-being in there. We do plan on meeting again in January, just to continue to talk about those steps and maybe see how we're going from there. Anything else, Mike?
Just the report, if anybody wants to publish on the subcommittee, so you can see how we scored, and specifically what the requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a great thanks to the entire committee, Amy Kennedy, Dr. Kelly Carroll, Mike Lynch, Deb Marciano, Acacia Ransom, and Eric Parati as our board member. This is not a small endeavor. There's a lot of pieces that are moving and to be considered. But overall, we are very pleased with the results of where we are now in terms of our policy and our efforts to continue to improve. So thank you so much to everybody. All right, moving on to the next piece of our agenda today. We have our task force RFP status update and recommendation in our board packets, and soon to be published online will be all of the received RFPs. So we received 3 different proposals from our RFP, I should state. And the current status is that after interviewing the firms that came to our invited interview process, Chairman Kleps, Chairwoman Guilfoyle, and First Selectman Jerem and myself were all present for the interviews. And we have a recommendation to make. So I will read that to the Board of Education because I will need an official motion to move this forward to our other boards, because the task force has agreed to do this in a joint unified fashion for the benefit of all of New Hartford. So the following motion is what I would request from the Board of Education, that the New Hartford Board of Education recommends to the Board of Finance and to the Board of Selectmen to award to the lowest bidder, Silver Petroselli and Associates, the services set forth in the RFP for school facility utilization.
So moved.
I'm not used to asking for a second. Thank you. Thank you so much. Discussion, questions that we could answer, and that would be to myself or to Mr. Kleps.
May I ask how much this is going to cost?
Sure, that should be in your board packet. And it is probably, let's see how many pages in.
I'm sorry if I missed it.
That's okay, it does. Yep. You have it on there? Yeah.
You're recommending combined efforts, correct?
Correct.
So
Yep, so the total there is $48,500.
okay. And may I ask how this is going to be paid?
So the recommendation right now is to award, and then the boards will determine how that will be paid. In our last discussion, we had spoken that we would make the recommendation, obviously, to the Board of Finance for their determination on that. But we wanted to make sure all of our boards were together, unified in this decision, and we would determine method of payment later.
Are there any grants available that we might apply for to help
Not for this
reduce
endeavor.
this cost?
Not for this endeavor right now, because we went out to bid, the
Okay.
strategic component of that was if we elicited from the entire state and beyond, that we would then be able to reimburse portions of this cost if we take a path of renovation with preschool, if we take the path of building a brand new school, then there may be opportunities to recoup some of these funds, but as of right now, they are not recoupable because we haven't taken any additional steps. So that's to come with the determination of task force and then Board of Education as the authority for our public schools. Yes, Tim.
This might be a
Dan,
dumb question.
1 second, Fred. Dan was, just to finish, Dan was looking into available funds from previous grants to be able to fund this. But he was taking that lead to determine whether or not there was something available.
So can you do that? Take money from other grants to help cover it?
He had these, again, there were all these different, I don't want to call them COVID grants. There were a bunch of different grants that
Oh,
were
okay.
provided for different things that,
Gotcha.
yeah, ARPA funds potentially was one of the ideas. But Dan was taking the lead to go look to see if there was something within the town that he could find to fund this.
Okay. Wasn't there money, you mentioned ARPA funds, was it money from ARPA that was supposed to go toward the roof?
That I don't know.
So some of those funds were utilized to render the services of the Colliers project. So and for the architectural design. So some of those funds that are there, I can't tell you the exact amount because those are not on our books, but
Right.
Mr. Jerem would certainly have that information. But we did use some of those funds to explore the complete roof replacement at New Hartford Elementary School.
Okay.
What does the timeline of this look like for this fee?
Sure. So we're looking at anywhere between 6 to 8 months to be reasonable deep dive analysis, reporting, public meetings, sharing information, interviewing staff and community. Again, more presentations and then decisions to be made, and then guidance upon referendum, guidance upon what next steps should be. So there's a lot to consider. And with this recommendation, we would look forward to having Silver Petroselli be presenting here for us and our other boards and our entire community over the course of the time.
So we will not have resolution on this prior to next year's budget process.
I don't think so.
Yep.
That would be
Insane.
pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to make a guarantee that that would be the case. This
Yep.
deserves thoughtful
I agree.
time and effort and energies and a lot of input from the community as well.
Could this cost go up based on, or depending on hourly rates, or is it?
Well, I'm
Capped at
anticipating that's what it
48,000.
is right now,
Okay.
lest there be something that's unanticipated. But I don't foresee that right now. In having our discussions and our interview, I felt pretty confident. And I would say that the remainder of the chairs would as well.
I might have missed something reading, but is effort 1 and effort 2 the cost to do a study of those two plans?
Effort 1 is retaining.
I see what it says. But does
Oh,
that mean
that's
you have to
replying-
pay?
That's replying to the RFP, sure. That's replying specifically to the RFP, which stated what effort 1 would be and what effort 2 would be if we were to do them independently of one another. But the combined efforts fulfilled the obligation, and the enrollment projections is the additional fee there. So it'd be 48.5. That's the total that we're looking at.
I guess my question is let's say we didn't do anything, we would be retaining the current facilities if there was no study whatsoever. So effort 2 tells you, I guess, how much you would save and what it would reduce.
No, because effort 1's going to project to us what those costs are going to be over time versus the other path. So they're both going to take analysis. So if we retain the current facilities, we will need to upgrade X, Y, Z, whatever, HVAC costs and more. Oil tanks, they're going to consider everything under the sun. If we're retaining the path and staying on the path, this is what it's going to look like. Versus, here's another path, reducing the number of total facilities, then it's going to be this type of path. I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't want to pretend that I know every single angle that they're going to look at, but both of these efforts are in depth. So I don't think it's just the one is going to be, this is what it's going to be, and we don't need to pay that because they are going to take a very deep look. If we look back at the RFP, it dictates everything in terms of student enrollment, projections, and all of the other components of running and maintaining these facilities that are aging, to be quite honest, from the 1940s. Thanks, Penny.
This is a study much more detailed than the one we did 10 years ago. Obviously, the efforts 1 and 2 look like they'd be interesting when they come out. What they'll be worth, I can't tell you, but they'll be interesting to read. And I think having been involved 10 years ago with Bakerville School, we did a lot of our own little, napkins, sketches, napkin projections of what things would cost to keep and get rid of and so on. So this will be interesting. But the $3,500 for projections, I see that as a waste of money. We paid something like $5,000 or $6,000. I forget what the number was. It was a lot of money 10 years ago. And they told us we have 120 kids at this point, and we have actually the same amount or maybe a couple more than 10 years ago. So, well, I think the enrollment projections are going to probably dovetail nicely with the efforts 1 and 2. But if they're going to use the projections to at all influence efforts 1 and 2, it'll be a useless exercise, efforts 1 and 2, because the projections, from what I can tell, are always just a dart. So that's my input on that.
We asked that question because it is an essential component of what they're doing, but it's also a factor of plus or minus whatever percent. No demographer is going to nail it right on the money. It's just not going to happen. But these elements are essential in both of our efforts to make the right determination of a path, because without that, you're guessing even more so. So they're going to do their best to provide an analysis, and that's exactly what it's going to be, just the best at what they can do. And that cost is implicit for what we need to get accomplished, because without it, they can't really produce, I would argue, anything that's of value, because how can you state what your path should be if you don't know or have any inkling whatsoever if we're going to increase or decrease? Again, I'm not the professional to speak to that, but we certainly did ask that question, and everyone shares pretty openly that that is not a exact science, that it's going to be a pinpoint number that they're going to be absolutely certain of. And in this particular case, they are not using the previous demographer. We're using a different firm for that as well.
I agree with you 100%. My point with what I just said was it plays a significant role. The projections are vital. You can't do any work, like you said, on efforts 1 and 2 without them. But from our experience, the projections were horrible.
Sure.
So if you're going to base any of the costs for 1 and 2 on those projections, they're going to be off to the same degree that your projections are off.
Yeah, the further out we get.
The further out.
Yeah, of
if
course.
you're going to say there's 120 kids going to be in our district in 10 years, these reducing the current facilities number is going to look fantastic. And the reducing the total number of facilities is going to look fantastic. But if it goes up, those numbers are going to be that much more out of whack. It's like looking through at the base of a triangle out. The further away you are, the worse those numbers are going to look. That's my point.
Yeah,
and I know you said that, but you kind of substantiate what I was saying. Without those numbers, without the enrollment projections, you can't do those other 2 studies.
Correct.
But if the enrollment projections are off, those studies are just as useless as the enrollment projections.
Yeah.
That's my point with this whole exercise, which is I'm going to vote no on this motion, but that's where I am.
No problem.
Have you talked to other schools that have used this company?
Yes, absolutely. Did my homework.
How many
contacted?
How many did you talk to?
I do 3 reference checks for them, and all came back extremely high. And we've had work with them in the past. They were the ones that took a deep dive and analysis into our HVAC systems. So they were the ones that provided that information that we need to do for all of our schools.
Those 3 companies or 3 schools that you looked into that use these people, they were happy with their results
Yes,
and they would
They-
highly recommend.
absolutely. And that they maintained their neutrality and unbiased, because that is not their role. Every single one of them said the same thing, that they are there to present information and help to make the best decision of what the town and that community wants, which is very important to hear from all of those references.
I mean, Tom is right, though. I mean, we spent all that money to have this projection done about how few students we would have, and it was a complete waste of money, really.
I
But-
can't, I understand the point, and it's not an exact science. That's all I could say. I can't, that's not my livelihood. I don't do this for a living. I don't do enrollment projections. I could just tell you on average, so far that I've been here, 430. I could tell you that wholehearted, it's just been consistently, that's where we're living right now. What it'll be in 10 years, I would not surmise that myself or anybody else can accurately pinpoint that. And I don't think that the enrollment projections would go out that far, for example. I think the max you're looking at is a 7 to 8 year. That's what they had shared with us at the interview process, because we did ask that. We said, the validity of this, how needed is this, and how critical is this information to have? And it is not an exact science. That's all I could really say. I wish I could tell more, but I can't.
Tim,
One thing to keep
I
in
was
mind.
going to ask
Yeah,
what
I
you
was gonna say,
learned
one thing
from
to
it.
keep in mind with this is that the enrollment projections are a necessity to be able to perform the studies in the eyes of the state. And the 8 years is what, it has to be within 8 years. So if we, as a community, decide to move forward with some renovation or some building or whatever it might be to be able to seek reimbursement, this is required. You can't go forward without it.
Did you have any impressions of the process of talking to them?
Yeah, but we, as Jeff said, we had 3 responses that came to the through from the RFP. So we had 3 RFP responses. We set up interviews for 3. 1 did not come to the interview, so we only interviewed 2. And when we interviewed the 2, this group has done this in the past. They had a lot of school experience throughout the state of Connecticut. As Jeff said, he called, there's some references to, again, get the input from them. But, in our opinion, and I speak for myself, and I'll speak for, Dan and Carrie and Jeff after they left, we feel that this is the right group for this community. The questions we asked were all about transparency and how they keep the community updated. And they had all the right answers. They were going to provide the information unbiased to be able to allow the community to make the decisions for the community. So it will, again, I know we go back to what happened 15 years ago. This is, and we were clear with them. We told them that, in the interview. We can't repeat that.
I would just add additionally, before everyone decides how they're going to vote on this motion, that this again has a genesis from the boards of finance, boards of selectmen, and other community members as well. So this is not just an endeavor that we are engaging in individually. Our intention is to do this in a unified manner for the benefit of the entire town. Before everyone votes on it, I think that's extremely important to state. We're making a recommendation to our other boards to do this as a unified task force, not just an individual body. This is for all and for our entire town.
Are there any further questions? Or are we ready to bring this to a vote?
I just have one. So the next step is for Jeff or somebody to send this company a letter, a contract for them to sign?
After it gets approved through the Board of Finance and Board.
Oh, they still have to approve it?
Board of Selectmen, yes, we took the lead to say we would
Okay.
start it here, because again, we do operate our buildings. We'd start here with making the recommendation to those boards on behalf of the Board of Education. Then they'll bring it to their boards. When all 3 boards approve it, then we will notify the award to this company, and then start the ball rolling.
And then how soon do they start doing whatever they're going to do?
I'm
these
going to say
two
again,
things?
based on, I don't recall what they said, but I thought it was their schedule was a 6-month process from start to finish.
Yeah, 6 to 8 months. So as soon as we are awarding, I will then schedule a meeting to then set up a deliverable timeline of, I'm sorry, a timeline of all of the deliverables so that we have a clear path of what we're going to be doing over the course of the 6 to 8 months.
So if,
So-
say by the end of this month,
Yeah.
the two other boards approve doing this,
Mhm.
then,
Then I will schedule a meeting with the president to sit with me and develop a timeline of deliverables. I'm going to guess January so that I'm not,
oh, okay, I was going
Speaking
to
out
say
of turn.
maybe December 1st, you would
I-
meet with him and award him the contract and then go from there.
it's dependent on the other boards and when they meet. I don't know their exact schedules to be 100% honest.
Board of Finance meets next week, and I think the
Yeah.
selectmen do too.
Okay, so then it could be expedited.
Okay.
My guess is January to start sitting and meeting and then developing a timeline.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, if we're ready to vote.
I make a motion to vote.
Thank you. All right, so the motion, can you read the motion one more time, Jeff, please?
Absolutely. That the New Hartford Board of Education recommends to the Board of Finance and to the Board of Selectmen to award to the lowest bidder, Silver Petrosilli and Associates, the services set forth in the RFP for school facility utilization.
Okay, we have a motion by myself and a second by Kristen. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, motion passes 6-1-0.
Okay, thank you, Board, for that. We will move that forward to the next boards. Pieces of information that I need to share publicly. So the press release for the board vacancy, as our chairman has shared, will go out tomorrow, November the 12th. That'll be posted on our website. We'll communicate that through our school messenger, and will also be in the local newspapers and Hartford Current. The resume deadline, we're making this announcement now, will be on November the 17th. The Board of Education special meeting will be held on November 25th at 6 p.m. here at Ann Antolini School, where the Board of Education will interview candidates, meet an executive session to determine the candidacy, and then to hopefully elect a member to the Board of Education. So again, press release November 12th, resume deadlines November 17th. Those will be due to the chairman of the Board of Education, to his email address, and then the board special meeting will be on November 25th, 6 p.m. Forgive me, the resumes will be sent to Sarah? Thank you. I knew the light bulb went off real quickly. All right.
Just one thing to add
Yes,
there.
sir.
Again, there is, if the Board of Ed does not elect a fill for the vacancy within 30 days, then it reverts to the Board of Selectmen to appoint somebody to the board.
Thank you. In our board packets, and for those of you that are following online at home, our information is posted. We are continuing to solicit Jeffrey Beckham, Paul Honig, and Mark Anderson relative to our DRIP program by the State Bond Commission. I've heard back from Mark Anderson, who is saying that he will completely support all the legislation for the District Repair and Improvement Project. That's one of the grants that the state of Connecticut has awarded. Also in the board packet, just want to share again a sincere thanks to all of the members. We have submitted our all hazards approach plan to DMOS and to the state of Connecticut. Again, the expertise, collaboration of everyone involved. I'm so thankful. That's also in the board packet. Huge shout out to our central office team. We were involved in some litigation with a previous employee relative to some funds that were taken without appropriate means. And there's a check that has been delivered back to our town for $1,442. Again, huge thanks to Amy Norton for her continued communication with the Department of Labor to realize that money going back to the general fund for the town. Nice job, Amy Norton. Some other quick updates. To Mrs. Plourde and the students over at Antolini, they have created a beautiful monthly newsletter for their community. It is absolutely wonderful. They have Did You Knows? They have funny things that happened recently and staff spotlights as well. So a huge kudos to our Mrs. Plord, one of our school psychologists in the district, and working with our students. There's even a joke and a drawing by one of our students. It's awesome. It's absolutely phenomenal. All right. Our Bright Futures Bulletin, our first quarterly communication from the district, including key highlights such as school-specific highlights if you've seen it online. We also shared it on social media. It updates board happenings, policy happenings, and even curriculum and report card updates. The day one unique visitors, we have a total of 283 people that saw that, which was pretty phenomenal. And the total views overall, 384 for that communication that went out. All right. Another piece of information that I would like to communicate is that Ed Advance was awarded an after-school grant of $120,000. Ed Advance does not work with us, for us, I should say. They are our local RESC, and they do provide aftercare services. We are continuing to explore the before care opportunities for our families, and we've put out survey information and collected that. Our next steps are going to be to determine how to do it, location, and staffing it. So those will be the next steps. That $120,000 is awarded to Ed Advance and to, I believe, Harwinton. They had submitted a multi-town grant and were awarded that. And I'm sorry?
Is that the one I could send you information on? It was Harlington.
It may have been, yeah.
Harlington.
Yeah, so it would be Harwinton, I don't know, if in Torrington, there was a couple other towns involved, but anyway, this $120,000 will be utilized to continue their work and efforts in providing aftercare and before school care to those communities. All right. Let's see here, the Board of Education also received a thank you card from Sarah Morrow, who is our general music teacher. She says, "Thank you so much for the beautiful blanket for baby Hallie. It is so cozy and we're all really enjoying cuddling together with it. You were too thoughtful to think of me and my family. Best, Sarah Morrow." So we wish her continued bonding and connection time with her sweet little baby. All right. And to her husband, forgive me, Brendan Tewksbury. Just want to make sure I announce that as well. All right, some fun facts. November 10th, 2025, Marine Corps birthday, if you didn't know. That marked the 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. In 1775, even before the United States officially existed as a nation, the Marines were established at Tun Tavern in Philadelphia. I didn't know that, but I figured I'd share that with everybody. Two special Veterans Day quotes that I found were pretty meaningful. And this one's by Joseph Campbell, who's a writer. "A hero is someone who has given his or her life to something bigger than oneself." And this one by Unknown, "We don't know them all, but we owe them all." All right, as we wrap up here, just want to make sure that we acknowledge that we are in the month of November to look for opportunities to appreciate and show your thankfulness and gratitude towards anybody in your life. It's really critical. It lifts up people's spirits and helps put a smile on their face and on their heart. So as we gather to celebrate the season of gratitude, we want to extend our heartfelt thanks to our incredible staff, our supportive community, and we want to wish you and all of your loved ones a safe, joyful, and restful Thanksgiving filled with warmth, laughter, and of course, gratitude. Those, I believe, are all of my updates and all of the information. I've taken up way too much time, I know, but they're important to share with all of you. We're so proud of, again, all of the work that our schools continue to do, and our students, as you heard, how busy they are. I mean, they're working, and they are working hard. So we will go to the next component of our agenda. I'll turn it back over to Chairman Kleps.
Okay, thank you. Moving to our next item on the agenda is routine business. First time on the agenda is the approval of our regular scheduled minutes of October 7th, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Frank. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Penny. Any discussion, any questions, edits? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous. Next item on the agenda is the expenditure report. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Penny.
Second.
Second by Tom. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous. Okay, moving on. We've got some first reads of, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 policies.
There's a whole bunch.
Penny?
Okay,
I have a question about the policies. This is, we still have an executive session, right?
yes.
Tonight? So it's going to be a long night. Is it ever possible to table something like this?
By a vote of the board.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
we
board
could
would have to
do.
vote and have 2/3
Yeah.
at least.
I'll make a motion that we table the policies, new and old, until next month.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to table new business and old business. Motion by
New
Penny.
policies and old policies.
Oh, yeah, that's new business and old business. Motion by Penny, second by Tom to table. Any discussion? We're okay with this?
I'm okay with it, with the table, obviously, but just please maintain your policy so we don't have to spend more time, effort, paper, and sending it back out. Does that make sense for everybody? And then we'll convene at our December 2nd Board of Education retreat. We'll make part of our meeting public. It's always public, but we'll broadcast and record this component of our meeting on December 2nd. Okay? Thank you.
I would just ask that you please read them all ahead of time.
Yeah.
And compile your questions.
How much I read.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All those in favor of tabling new business and old business to the next meeting, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is public comment for agenda items only. Would anybody like to address the board?
Sure, sure. Board Chair, may I answer the question? All right, fantastic. So I have not broached that subject with the set firm until we have engaged and fully awarded, and I will get that answer and then provide it publicly. I anticipate it being early on in the process to start to determine some sentiment of the public and the community. I don't have an exact timeline, but once I do, I will absolutely present it so that the community can see that. You're welcome.
I'll second that.
Second by Penny. The reason I'm tabling is we have a member who was part of that advance who's no longer on the board at this particular time. So we will be looking for someone to volunteer to engage and participate with the advance meetings and then report back. If anyone is interested, please shoot me an email and let me know. I'll take that to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous.
You might want to tell them how often it meets.
Yeah.
Is it daytime, nighttime, weekends?
Typically, in the evenings, there's opportunity for virtual attendance as well. And Ed Advance usually meets once a month, depending on their agenda, their quarterly reporting. So that's what it typically is.
Okay, next item on the agenda is executive session. Can I get a motion to go into executive session, inviting Superintendent Sousa at 8:29 p.m.?
So moved.
Moved by Penny, second by Frank. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand.